This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to episode 8 of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2023. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. It's always a pleasure to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. Hope all is well.
Always very good. We are obviously in the new year. It always feels after when the bells ring that the next thing to look forward to is the Cheltenham Festival, and I think we're at that stage now where it's all past to Cheltenham.
Yeah, something to look forward to. The 2023 Cheltenham Festival is always one to look forward to. Markets are beginning to clear up a little bit. I think there's more ideas. There's more horses that are introduced in the exchanges, stuff like that. It kind of makes kind of underpins kind of market security a little bit. And some firms are already going non-runner, no bet. So that gives you an extra layer of security if you want to take a shorter price. But yeah, there's just a bit more options, a bit more clarity that's starting to appear, I think.
Yeah, there's a couple of firms went non-runner, no bet. William Hill, I think, is one of them. I think the other one was Paddy Power, but obviously they'll be, just as we say, kind of shop around because you'll find something. I think the non-runner, no bet thing, when it gets to that stage, I think it's time to maybe kind of go into your anti-post selections. But we do have some questions this week. If you want to send a question in, please leave it in the comments below or send us it through Twitter or Facebook. First question, after the race at Tramore, what horse do you think will finish better in the Gold Cup, Statler or Manila Indo? Brilliant race at Tramore, obviously. It was a really good finish. Kind of went the opposite way of what I thought. I thought Statler would outstay Manila Indo in the day, but it turned into a really good race. Manila Indo, massive win for the De Brom heads. What do you think for Cheltenham, though? Because they're roughly, Statler's about 12, Manila Indo's about 16 for the Gold Cup. Who do you, if you would a free bet for the Gold Cup between the two, who would it be?
Would be on Statler, I think. It was a good race. It turned into kind of a bit of a tactical duel. I'd have expected Statler to maybe be a bit more forceful and be ahead of Manilindo, go forward, make it more of a stamina test. He stays the National Hunt Chase Strip, for instance. Manila Indo has showed good turn of foot in Gold Cups. He's kind of a speed Gold Cup horse, really. It suited him a little bit more. I don't think the track was ideal for either. So I think they both ran well and jumped well for credit. I also think Manila Indo is maybe a bit more physically forward than expected. Punches in Gold Cup, for instance, it was a really bad run. So I think Henry de Bromhead was quite keen to know where he was at quite quickly with Manila Indo. And he used his experience well. And Manila Indo was also getting £8 from Statler. And Statler's hitting the line well. And probably didn't have the rail as well at Tramore, which is he's always going to concede in ground a little bit. So I think he's got a lot more upside. And to give Manila £8, who ran quite to a high level of form, I think, on the day. Is for his first run in open company, I thought it was a decent effort, and they're both going to head to the Irish Gold Cup, which is interesting and slightly off-putting at the same time because they're going to take on Conflated as well. And Irish Gold Cup form in recent years has not really translated well to Cheltenham Gold Cup, as it's a fairly quick turnaround, to be honest, for a race of that nature. So I would be inclined to lean with Statler to reverse form in the long run. Whether they can make an impact in the Cheltenham Gold Cup, I'm not so sure because they're both probably going to take in the Irish Gold Cup.
I think that the last 2 years with Manila Indo in the Gold Cup, he's had it his own way up until the kind of obviously the year he won. I think Alvin Folk and Appletard kind of took each other on, and it kind of led it all clear for him. Last year, Appletard came back. I don't think he's going to get that this year, where he's going to get a great view into the race. I think, as you say, maybe something like Galloping Deschamps is going to put everybody's jumping under pressure. I would say Statler probably just has the edge in terms of he stays further, really likes the track as well. He's never run a bad race at Cheltenham. Neither's Manila Indo, you could make the case as well, but I just think Statler is as you say, he was getting £8 as well, Manila Indo. Statler, I just think the Gold Cup test will suit him more now than maybe Manila Indo. As you say, is maybe more of a kind of speed horse, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and age is Statler's side, and it's against Manila Indo as well. But you take enormous encouragement from both of their runs. I think debut as well, seasonal debut. Manila Indo's Cheltenham course record is tremendous.
Mhm.
Statler's best run's arguably an old course. It's a bit sharper, but he can cope with that as well. So I think they're both serious each way players. They're a really strong renewal of the Gold Cup. I mean, if you are a Galpin Deschamps fan, you have to be pretty confident that he'll stay and pretty confident that he's a class above, because they're Manila Indo and Statler are just two each way players to note. I mean, there's a good 5 or 6 of these that have a really strong each way claim. So it looks a better renewal than it was last year as well. There's a bit more kind of strength and depth to it.
I think it looks a really interesting Gold Cup if they all get there. Next question: could Willie Mullins break the record for festival winners that he had last year? Now, I was looking through this. I understand that 10 is the record that he had last year. He's got 13 kind of big chances in the top 2 in the betting in the kind of big races. He could just do it again, couldn't he? 10 winners is a lot. That's over a third of the races. Do you know what I mean? It's hard.
I put him in the ballpark of between 8 and 12, so I think 10. I think he's definitely on course to match it. The thing I looked at is that Friday seems to be the most significant day. I mean, going through the card like just casually, he could win easily 6 of the 7 races that day. Very easily. So many options. He normally plunders the county hurdle quite well. He's got Galpin Deschamps, Billaway, Allegory de Vasse is a hot favourite there. Tends to do well on the mountain pipe. Albert Bartlett, he's got chances. I mean, the list is kind of endless, really, on the Friday. And he's going to get a couple of handicaps. The Supreme looks is to lose already. I mean, there is definitely at least 6 there, and there's potential for 6 more, and the probability is that he's going to get 9, 10 or 11, I would say. So yeah, he has every chance of breaking it. I don't think it'll be completely dominant in his own way. It certainly won't be done by Friday. That's what I would say. Friday's shaping up to be his strongest day at the moment.
Yeah, obviously last year Friday was his strongest day as well. But I mean, he's got so many good chances as well, and he's got so much depth, as you say, all around the card. So it'll be interesting to see if he does do that. Next question: is there anything you have in mind for handicaps for the festival? Now, there's the handicaps. We're beginning to get prices. We're beginning to see potentially, as we call them, plot jobs. Anything in mind so far?
Tons of ideas. There's races that I would certainly avoid at the moment. The Boodles being one of them. That looks like a complete minefield at the moment. I wouldn't touch that. I wouldn't look at the Martin Pipe too much, although the Laurels on Ace could be informative in that. 3 Cal Bragg, Spanish Harlem, they're pretty highly touted horses for there. Couple of faint ideas for the Coral Cup, Grand Daniels, Ultimas, stuff like that. But the one that I would give down to big style is Indigo Breeze in the Kim Muir.
I've got it written down here as well. That's one of the ones I've written down.
Mainly down to the real whacker form, which I mean, that's 10, 12 to 1 for the Brown Advisory. That run, back in October, November time, when it looked like a really ornery race when Barnstown Lad didn't jump well and Lucinda Russell, the horse, suffered from heat stress stuff. Indigo Breeze is staying on 3/4 length behind the real whacker. We thought that looks substandard form at the time. He was dropped £3 for that run as well. So I think like 134. British handicapper reassesses that and then gives him 5. That's definitely Kim Muir material, isn't it? I can see he's been introduced at 12s. I don't think 12s is that bad. You're not going to get many horses from that yard with that unexposed profile that he does, having such leading claims. So I think that at the moment, along with So Scottish, who hints serious the shunter vibes from Emmett Mullins for a plate, but he's already been chipped into 7s, so he can probably leave that alone for now, I would think. But Indigo Breeze for Kim Muir is definitely one to keep on side at the moment. I would.
Indigo Breeze is one I've got as well. Green Glory, wherever he goes, the Charles Burns horse that won at Christmas. I think he's rated 1-2-1. He's already won 4 times. I would be very wary of backing novices in hurdle races at the moment, obviously with the 4 runs. Green Glory's at 5. He will need another one because I think he's off 1-2-1. He's going to need to maybe go up another £10 to get into a race like the Martin Pipe or even the Coral Cup. Charles Burns is an expert at placing horses, as we've seen with Shoot First in the past. He's had a few winners in the Coral Cup. I kind of think I'm coming down in Goody Two Shoes for the Boodles. I know the Boodles as a minefield, you're right. There's a lot of unknowns about that race, but I did like the way Goody Two Shoes shaped up in the race. It was won by Cal. Eric Bloodaxe are tipped up for the Pertemps. He will be better. He will be more well off with Maxim, who again could just go and bolt up and be the unsinkable boxer of the present day. County Hurdle, I kind of think Elie de Tomps could be one for that, unless they persist in maybe having him being the second best and maybe a Supreme or even go up and trip. But County Hurdle, we could go for that. I wouldn't. It's very hard now with handicaps, isn't it? You're just kind of finding out where everything's going. It's tough, but the one I would say probably is Indigo Breeze. Good form behind Banbridge. That race at Cheltenham as well, get good course form. I think he could certainly. Gordon Elliott's record in the Kim Muir is very good. He always seems to have one that he has early on for it. I think this could be the one.
Yeah, and he's unexposed. The Kim Muir last season was full of very exposed horses. It's a limited kind of handicap. The good thing is Jamie Codd knows him inside out. Running his bumper days at Thurles just only a few years ago. So, I mean, you'd imagine that Gordon Elliott's got plenty of top amateurs to choose from, but I mean, he's got to be top of the list in terms of, if you think the real whackers, he's producing good numbers, early 150s. Banbridge is a good operator, third in the Grade 1 subsequently, and also won at Cheltenham before then. So that's decent grade in novice form. The sectional suggests are pretty good. So you'd be confident that Indigo Breeze is potentially a better than the bare 145 limit. A lot of these in the Kim Muir really aren't. You have to kind of be, really deliberate in how you're campaigning horses to be effective in a Kim Muir, and you know all about them as well most of the time. Even though if you think that they've been kind of laid out for it, they do mostly have a ceiling. Mount Ida didn't. She jumped widely right and still won. He's unexposed for a yard that knows what they're doing in that kind of race, and I think that makes big appeal. I wouldn't put anyone off 12, so I'd probably back it right now, to be honest.
Yeah, I was contemplating tipping them up this week, but we'll maybe wait till later on. But if you've got a question, obviously just leave it in the comments below or send it through social media. We'll move on to the recap. We will start on the 31st, the last day of the year. A couple of horses to mention. We will start at Newbury. Jupiter de Geet won the introductory hurdle. There's a lot to get through here because I took a sore one in this race. Jupiter de Geet, though, was very impressive. 66-1 winner. I don't think even the Moors expected the performance that he put in. Can you take the form seriously, though, with how poor the race ended up, or is he one for a triumph hurdle?
Well, we're talking about Newbury. The first aspect of it is the ground. When I saw that ground after the first, I just went, I'm not betting on that today. There's heavy and there's kind of porridgey, deep heavy, and that looked. It was that bad that you think like some even soft ground horses won't like this. So that kind of puts you off. That's your hope. That's your excuse for Jet Powered. Kind of tapered away. Maybe didn't like it. It was still disappointing. He was strong enough in the market to suggest it shouldn't have been a problem. Faded quite badly. This French bred horse, it was a bit of a monstrous performance, but again, you think the ground's exaggerated his superiority. He's not been fancied at all in the market, but then it's Moors, so they come out and say he's a bit of a headbanger, and it's like light for light quotes about Goshen here with us from Gary Moors. I always thought he was talented, but he's a bit of a screw loose, and it's just worked out on track, and it's surprising.
Jumped well for a juvenile as well.
Yeah, and he was like crazy beforehand, but I mean, going through the race, he wouldn't have thought it was that problematic. You can see him kind of relishing big stamina tests, and triumphs usually are a test of stamina sometimes. So you can see why bookies are a bit wary of him of cutting that drastically. The big doubt is that he's not beaten much and he's a bit of a mudlark. in essence, and he'll lead it to Dunlop soft, but it didn't stop Goshen, and a mistake stopped him. So, you can get these kind of freaks in juvenile company that can just hold their own for the year and then just kind of maybe disappear a little bit. And he is very, very hard to assess. It's all about your own kind of impression and what about things, like a lot was at Newbury that day. I wouldn't be backing him, but I wouldn't be completely discounting him either. You'd have to see him replicate it. Maybe a Northern trial up here will reveal more like
Just hope Adonis avoid that like the plague.
Yeah, don't go there. You'd look for something. You'd get a decent cut on the ground, and Haydock would be ideal. Muscle even.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly a place like Haydock. If you can find maybe even Cheltenham, maybe even go for the juvenile at Cheltenham just before, maybe in January, maybe that late January could be an ideal trials day. Jet Powered, I think 33-1 is a bit big. I'm not gonna lie. I've not went back in. I'm not going. I've kind of fallen down the same way I've fallen down in like American Mike. You need to see him again before you go back in, because it was just weird how he just bottomed out. Could he be one maybe maybe if you throw in, I know it's the same course, but you would hope maybe the Betfair Hurdle, it would be a bit better ground. Could you put him in a race like that and see, could that be an option for him?
Problem is he needs a mark, and he needs to come out quickly again before that. So you need 3 runs. I think they'll just give him time to recover it. Maybe pitch him in a Supreme, see what happens. I mean, it's just a ground. You just get legless in that ground.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. He was like walking last, and he wasn't the only horse that day. I mean, I think the majority of them were like that. So yeah, you're just like, let's go sit the ground and hope that it's not kind of taking too much out of him, and they've looked after him subsequently, and he could bounce back. The high enough reputation beforehand. You never know, but if it's a wide open Supreme and no one was throwing their hat in the ring, then you might be able to forgive him. But if you're bumping into Facile Vega after an effort like that, it's a very hard case to beat. Yeah,
I think it could be. I think he could just jump. He could just turn up in a Supreme, or maybe see him again before. But again, not a good day for my anti-post selection. We'll move into the Challow. The grade 1 of the day was won by Hermes Allen 3 years in a row for Paul Nicholls. He's now 72 favourite for the Ballymore. He made light work. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't a difficult day. I think the form in behind is terrible. I just don't know if I can go in at 72 when he hasn't beaten an awful lot. I would say his race before that at Cheltenham, he's beaten far better horses than he has in a grade 1.
Well, it's a good thing that Cheltenham form's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Man's Game didn't have in his locker. Something Stage Star didn't have in his locker. So he has that for him. He also has the fact that might change on the Sunday when you see a Laurels of Nace if a Grange-Clare West bolts up or something like that. I haven't seen a kind of Bob Ornser type figure. I haven't seen an Envoy Allen type figure. Sam Crow, there's no kind of odds-on shot here for the Ballymore. So you can see why he's vaulted into favouritism on the back of that as well. I don't think the form in behind looks that strong. I mean, the French horse, the Irish horse that was in second, absolutely hated the ground. Was one of the first beaten. That half the field were pulled up. A couple of them plugged on okay to decent effect. Harry Cobbin gave it a brilliant ride. Knew exactly where to go in Newbury, which is down the inside. Even in bad conditions, and it's tempting to go outside for better ground. The drainage in Newbury makes sure that's not actually the case. It's actually better to stick to an unsafe ground, even if it is wet. So it was a clever ride in that regard. The Cheltenham form is a bit better. Music Drive that he beat in the second's done nothing since. We've all been caught, which is far too slow for a Ballymore. It has kind of franked it a little bit. 72 is too short. I think there's although there's no outstanding candidate, there's plenty of kind of interesting options in behind that are completely unexposed as well. So it's entitled to his chance. He's pretty ground versatile. He's very uncomplicated. He's quite forward. He did it easy enough. He'll go straight there. Is an Irish horse going to beat him? I think it's likely that there will be one that will probably beat him. So 72 right now. I can leave that alone at the moment. The
problem with the Challow for me is that there's so many horses in it who've ran well at Cheltenham, but they never go one step better. Is that kind of similar here? the Lawlers of Nations. I think it's always a good thing. You've got the Charlo and then you've got the Lawlers of Nation. You can compare the British and the Irish form. I always think that's quite good within a few days. Do you see something from Ireland being a bit better than them?
There could be quite a few that are better than them. They haven't really shown their hand yet over there that strongly. It's just taking such a kind of privative price about, and Brave Man's Game stage starting. They've been there, done it. Champ, Time Hill, who are undoubtedly very good horses, but they've always bumped into one. While there's no superstar at the moment against them, there could easily be one by the end of Leopardstown in February, the Dublin Racing Festival. There could be quite a fair few. So, no, I would, if you really like him, I would say wait, see what the best Irish form is, and then go in again when he's pushed out to 5-6 to 1. Simple as that. I would not be backing him straight after that when all his main rivals have probably yet to kind of be fully tested and graded company across the water. So yeah, wait till you see what Irish contender you like, how their form's working out, how it looks, compare it to Hermes Allen, and then you're guaranteed to get a bigger price then about Hermes Allen in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, rather than now. So yeah, it's all about kind of waiting for the right price with him if you do like him. And I do. He's definitely the right favourite at the moment. That's because he's shown his hand in the Grade 1. Is it form to go to war with? Probably not, because there's plenty of interesting types in behind.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. We'll move into New Year's Day. We'll start at Cheltenham. We've all been caught a horse we've quite liked. Is now about 20 to 1 for the Albert Bartlett. Made all and stayed on pretty well. Could he, obviously, the Twiston Davises have said he might be one to go over a fence in the next couple of years. It could be one for the future. Do you think that's maybe just a year too soon for him?
It could be novice company. I think there might be a couple of more forward novices that'll do him. But if it sounds good to soften Albert Bartlett, there's no reason why I can't run into a place or something like that. But they do. Yes, definitely one for the future. They're not going to be silly with him, take too much. Hermes Allen, give it a boost. His forward third, and that was ground that would probably be plenty quick enough for a trip that was too short from that day at Cheltenham. So he's come on from it. They've waited for this. You can see him plundering a trial up again at Haydock, like an Albert Bartlett trial somewhere up north where they will probably get cut in the ground, and he may shorten again. He may emerge as the best of the British contingent in that division, but I do think 3 mile novice staying hurling division looks pretty strong to me.
Yeah. I think it does. I think he's probably one for next year. There's a few, like he reminds me a bit of Canala Philippe, maybe a horse that prefers it maybe a bit soft on the ground, and maybe just we'll find Cheltenham this year maybe just a bit too soon, and could maybe be a player next year over hurdles or even fences. I think he wanted to definitely keep on the right side off. We'll move into the Dipper. We said it was a terrible race. The real whacker was very good. It was a very good performance, but I think a lot of the horses in behind were very, very poor.
Yeah, Mon Morale looks a bit brittle and kind of confirm that impression to me. Thunder Rock kind of threatened to stay on a little bit. The real whacker just bowled out along, dictate from the front, and it was very clean, very efficient, and really impressive times. People in the sectionals, and it matches up really well to the handicap on the same day, which is pretty high class handicap form. So yeah, it's Patrick Neville might be a trainer that not many people have kind of too familiar with, but he was confident he would improve, and he has done, and he's now been taken quite seriously in a wide open Brown advisory market here, where quite a lot of the horses you fancy might stay at home, quite a lot of them might go to the National Hunt Chase, some of them might go to the Turners instead. He's going to go here, and if it's still this wide open, you wouldn't dismiss him, because everything he does is quite clean, quite efficient. There's not a lot of holes to be picked there. Just kind of his unsexy profile doesn't really tag along too much.
Yeah, I think he could be a big player in a Brown advisory. I think he's one of the very few, as you say, that we definitely know that's where he's going to go. We'll move into the handicap. The New Year's Day handicap was won by Midnight River. The best price I found is about 12 to 1 for the play. I can imagine him going in something like that. It was a decent handicap run. It was again a lot of these races, they're kind of the same horses they're running up against. It's probably a good line of form actually. This race, there was a couple of good runs in behind. Midnight River could be one for a festival maybe.
He won in November. He's won this now. To go to March, off again a higher mark. You know, the horses in behind should start to be catching up with him a little bit. I thought Nassalam ran really well. I think he'd be interesting in third. He might be one that could turn around the form a little bit. El Redoto in behind. I would like to see him drop back and trip to 2 miles. He could be a player in a Grand Annual or something like down the line, you know, where he strengthens up, gets kind of spring ground. He'd probably better seem to affect Stolen Silver in second, ran a storming race. He was highly touted in the race. Midnight River had won before winning that over course and distance. I think he could maybe get closer again in March. The plate's always a traditionally strong handicap. It's a consistent line of form. It's a very specific thing. So Scottish has been highly touted for it already. You know, and Emmett Mullins, the line with the shunter and stuff. So Midnight River could still keep progressing, you know, and they can do sometimes. Sky Pirate did the Grand Annual. Cool Cody kind of won from nowhere off kind of high marks. So they all come in different shapes and sizes and different weights. Midnight River's obviously thriving. There's probably still a little bit more to come from him, but it's just whether the margin shouldn't really be any bigger than it has been the last 2 times. So you just have to kind of wait and assess if the handicapper's really going to properly catch up with him and give the others in behind a bit more of a chance.
Yeah, the Skeltons are probably ones to keep on the right side of in recent handicaps. They've been winning them kind of across the British radar.
Yeah, they've targeted them definitely very well. These handicaps, big pots. Yeah, if you spot one from them from the outside for a long time, they do execute kind of medium to long term plans really well.
Yeah, we'll move into the Real Keel Hurdle, which was won by Marie's Rock. 72 joint favourite roughly for the Mare's Hurdle, which she won last year. Probably the performance of the day, actually. I thought it was a lovely performance. Beat a good field as well. Is she potentially one to? She's the thing I've had with Marie's Rock is I've always felt she's been able to get to that stage. She's always been potential. Maybe I thought she was a player last year as maybe an each way player in the Mare's Hurdle. I didn't expect her to win it, but now she's won it. She could just kick on and be a lot better.
I was disbelieving that this horse went out to 11-2 on the day. As I said earlier, I mean, I fancied her. I know she may have needed the run, but I mean, she was the only Grade 1 horse in that race that stays the trip. First Street didn't stay. Nicky Henderson surprised and get called into the steward's room about say, what do you not explain about your girl's poor performance, which they would turn around and say, well, his best form's over 2 miles and he was third and there was nothing wrong with the run. So that was really bizarre, particularly when the favourite, I like to move it, get totally bombed out, but there was no steward's explanation required there for some reason. So that was particularly odd. There was talk immediately afterwards, go for a champion hurdle.
No
it was
chance.
kind of visually impressive. She does it with the pace for that.
No.
I remember back at Kempton around the same time of year when she won a handicap 8-1 off fresh, and there was questions asked about her. So that's why I was in no concern of her needing a run. She does run well fresh.
I fancied her hugely for the Mare's Novice. I think she was about 6-1 at one point, and she got pulled out of it. I thought
that's why they take great care about getting these things, and they knew what they had definitely by doing that, and they've taken their time. They've been rewarded for their patience, rightfully so. And I can see why she's definitely favourite. I think track and trip really suit her really well. Ground pretty versatile. Stayed well to win it last year. I think it might be a bit better race this year. Maybe a bit deeper, a bit more competitive. But yeah, she's a defending champion, and she's got a defending champion's chance. I would say, she's very hard to knock out the frame.
Yeah, I think she's a good chance as well. We'll move into Musselburgh. I've got a horse to mention. Manila Drama won the handicap chase there really well, jumped lovely. Maybe not one for a festival, but he's certainly one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's safe to say probably Aintree, something like that. Can maybe get a kind of low Grade 2, Grade 3 affair. Haydock suits him well. When he does start winning, he tends to just keep on winning and then go missing for a little bit. 145, 150. That's about his ceiling, I think. So they won't go to Cheltenham with him, but they'll Aintree, maybe even Ayr in Scottish Cup.
Yeah, could be.
There could be a decent 2.5 mile handicap there. There's a Scotty Brand Chase, for instance. There's a listed race that he can maybe aim him at. So yeah, there's options there, but he's not quite Cheltenham Festival class.
No, we'll move into Tremor. The first race was won by Quay de Paris, 25 for the Supreme. The market would have suggested this horse could have bolted up about 20, 25 lengths. He made hard work of it. You would kind of think he's maybe one for the future, but he certainly didn't catch the eye maybe the way we thought he would.
Yeah, it's a bit workmanlike. He might have needed a run. He looked a bit kind of rusty. There was moments of concern at times, but he dug it out well enough. Yeah, Vasselvega in his own yards, definitely not losing much sleep. I don't think.
No, it was okay. It was, again, it's maybe one down the line. Maybe next year it could prove in to be a bit better. Carmadon Hill was impressive in the maiden hurdle over the Jack de Bromhead maiden hurdle, 20-1 now for the Albert Bartlett. A very comfortable performance, but 9 lengths win, beat a good horse in Lisnagar Fortune, who was fancied by the Mullins Yard. Player in a Bartlett, maybe?
Not for me. I don't think he's experienced enough. I think it's a really strong division. I just see him again up in grade. I don't think the favourite really ran right. He's too free. He was never going to see that out. He's picked up the pieces. He might have a chance, but he's not on my radar anyway for now.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good performance, but again, you probably would need to win a graded race to enter calculations for that. As you say, it's a really strong division and probably one that will take there'll maybe be something else, particularly. I think Elliott could have about 2 or 3 that he could have in the radar for that. Manel Ando obviously won the New Year's Day chase. Good performance as well. We spoke about it earlier on in the show. Fairy House, Harmonia Maker was a really good winner, actually. 12-1 now for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. Jump Left, which I don't think will be an issue at Cheltenham. Is she a player in a Mayor's Novice?
Don't think she is. I think she needs it soft, and I think she needs it further. That was a quarter mile further than the Mayor's Novice's trip, really. Essentially, she did flop at odds on better ground, a flatter track. So I'd have doubts about her, but she is classy enough. She is progressing. So if it did turn into a bit of a grind, a bit of a stamina test, which excess stamina in a Mayor's Novice's hurdle is certainly no bad thing. She'd be a player, but she has already had 7 runs over various disciplines. She might be a little bit exposed if it's normal spring conditions. I think soft ground's pretty important to her.
Yeah, I would go along with that. We'll move into Indiana Dream, 20-1 for the Ballymore. Again, was very prominent. 1-15 lengths. You can argue what he's beaten, but 20-1 for the Ballymore. Again, is he maybe one that could sneak under the radar?
He could be. I quite like this. I think he was kind of signs of rushes. I just think there's a lot of scope to improve from that. Won easily, but I do think he'd kick on from that. I think he's just that kind of type. Yeah, he's probably not beaten a great deal, but up in grades, I think he'd be able to hold his own in a better race. You look Ringrossi at a couple, probably out of boredom more than anything else, because it was that straightforward for him. But I think he's one that's got potential. Whether Cheltenham comes a bit too soon, whether he could have go to Punchestown or Aintree instead. JP McManus has enough ammunition in that division. In pocket, for instance, is one that springs to mind. You could see him maybe waiting for an Aintree and pouncing there. Yeah, possibly. We'll move into Scarlet and Dove, 6-1 now for the Mayor's Chase. Was second in it last year. She won the Mayor's Chase comfortably. Third in it last year, sorry. I think this horse is always... I like her. She's honest enough. She's a good horse. But with Allegory Devassi setting a standard last year, she was third. I just think she's always going to find 1 or 2 better horses than particularly at Cheltenham. I disagree. I think this sets a standard.
Really?
He's jumping well. That's novice form. He's comprehensively turned the tables on Dolcita, like Joseph O'Brien suggested, that she would come back. 94 in the day was a knocking bet.
I thought she was a good bet in the day, yeah.
One of the rare ones. She's always hard to get fit, so she's always going to improve for that first run. She did. that was back to 150 level performance. Now you see what Algori Devassis gets tons of scope to improve, and so is Imperious. They're not running to 150 yet in open company. 6-1. I think it's big. I think there's big question marks about LMA. GP McManus is obviously bought Imperious. LMA usually runs in the new year as well. She usually takes in her racing quite well. The fact I haven't seen her since that is a little bit of a minor concern in my head. So that propels Scarlet and Dove clear the open mares, and I think she's a lot closer to Allegory Devassi and Imperious than a lot of people believe. I think people are overestimating novice form against novice. It's like put in a truly run race, you might make a mistake. You don't know what a novice could potentially do there, and they'll be running off levels. It's not as if they're getting weight either. So
Yeah,
I think Scarlet and Dove looks maybe a bit better this year. We know she can run to 150. Allegory Devassi definitely could. Pervis probably could, but they haven't gone and done it yet, and they won't be able to go and do it until the day. And until that day's there, then Scarlet and Dove should be vying for favouritism with that pair at the moment.
I know it could be a good race actually as well. You've got like so Tell Me Something Girl could be one that could be sneaking under the radar as well. You would need to see her obviously better jumping. There's some decent horses in that division, but I think Scarlet and Dove might just find one or two better. We'll move into James de Berlay. Again, this is a horse I've had in my mind for a long time. I think he could be a very good horse. The one thing is his fitness. He hasn't run since 2021. He was impressive, a bit keen, won by 15 lengths, jumped well. Where do you think the turners? He doesn't look short of gears. It could be. Daryl Jacob mentioned the other day he could be a turners horse. I think he could.
Daniel have no idea where he would go, would you? It might all hinge on where El Fabiola goes. If they keep him to 2 miles, he'll probably be inclined to keep James de Berlay to 2.5. If they want El Fabiola to maybe go up and trip to 2.5, probably shunt him up to 3. So you'd be keeping an eye on that one because it's the same ownership, the same trainer. Daryl Jake will probably keep the ride.
I'd have thought so, yeah.
In one way or another, unless he develops as a number 1 turners horse or something like that. Or the number 1 3-mile horse. But as you say, he has had historical setbacks. It was a very good performance, but you'd have to, if you like his chances in an open Brown Advisory returners, you'd have to wait till close to the time. He'd be one that you'd want a non-runnable bet on because of that kind of injury factor.
Yeah.
You wouldn't mind taking a shorter price about him because of that kind of historical stuff, and but he had enough pace to run running a champion hurdle, for instance.
And he finished second in the Punchestown race behind Classical Dream after that, so he could be versatile enough.
Yeah, and he definitely wasn't slow there in his chasing debut. He was quite quick over his fences. So yeah, he's another one to monitor up in grade. You want to see him kind of put a couple of runs together, just to kind of get that kind of niggling doubt in the back of your mind. If he picks up a knock or something, he might be a bit kind of a fragile type. So yeah, I'd keep him on mind and I'd wait for him. And yeah, you'd probably lean towards his turners at the moment, but with Willie Mullins, he's got a lot of dividing to do, and you wouldn't be surprised if he went Brown Advisory. Yeah,
we'll probably find out on the Monday of Cheltenham, Monday before the festival with Willie Mullins. But again, he's another dart to throw, and as you say, he's got 7 or 8 novice chasers. It's just a case of splitting them up and seeing where they go. But yeah, I thought it was a really good performance. We'll move into what's coming up this week. Good racing at the weekend, and Saturday we'll start at Sandown with the first Grade 1 of 2023 is the Tolworth Novices Hurdle. We'll just go through the betting. Authorised Speed leads the betting at 2-1. Tamaras for Paul Nichols at 5-2. Arte Brazil coming over for Henry de Bromhead at 7-2 and 12-1 bar. We thought Lucia would turn up. She scoped badly. I'm kind of not glad of that. You don't want to see a horse scoping badly, but I didn't understand her going to a Tolworth at all. I just didn't think it was a good idea. This is an open race. There's 3 potentially good novices in here. Obviously, an Irish Raider. Authorised Speed showed some good form in the past. Tamuris looks good enough. What do you fancy here?
I quite like Arctic Brazil. I think this is spotted soft ground and spotted an opportunity here to come over. And it's Sandown Hill's a stamina test. He looks like a horse that would be able to get 2.5, but he did show a lot of gears and putting that race to bed. He's had a high reputation. It's cost a lot in the background, so that they'll be keen to get this Grade 1 in the bag, and I think they're spotting this as a decent opportunity rather than kind of sit in sufferance and take on Facile Vega. So I think they're going over here to win. Rachel Blackmore is booked, which is always a positive. There's no external distraction whatsoever. So I think I'm surprised that he's going to be billed as outside of 3. I think authorised speed, brings champion bumper from the equation. But he did make a massive howl at the last.
Yeah.
And he's beaten next to nothing. And the Nichols horse, I don't think's that hugely scopy.
He'll probably like the ground though, won't he? He's ran well in good ground.
He'll definitely like the ground, so I think they'll all kind of run the race, but I think Arctic Brazil might have a bit more class than the rest of these, and I can see him in authorised speed dealing with the hill better than Nichols horse as well. So yeah, I would lean towards Arctic Brazil at the prices. Yeah,
I think Arctic Brazil could be the one for me as well. I think as well, with a view to Cheltenham, they've came here. Obviously, if it's a soft 2 miles, it wouldn't probably put him out of place in a Ballymore either. He could be one for that. I think he's going to be one that could be. He was a non-runner in that infamous bumper that was run in the past with Bob Ollinger and Journey with Me. You could tell that's maybe the route that we're going to go down. I don't think there's any. I think 7-2 is a good bet here, especially with Blackmore on board. I think he could be the winner as well. 2 votes for Arte Brazil. We'll move into the Veterans Chase. Again, very open. You've got the likes of Rams de Tay in there, Snow Leopardess, Kustar Sivilla, Bally Andy, a lot of really honest horses. What do you fancy here?
The one I like the most is Kustar Sivilla.
Okay.
I just think he needed the run last time. He's plummeting the weights. He's a decent back class as well. I mean, one at the Cheltenham Festival, for instance, back in the day. Venetia Williams, soft ground horses. Venetia Williams, I mean, I think backing her horses at Sandown Saturday, I don't think you're going to go too far wrong. She might have possibly 3-4 winners that day. Quite a few of them are very well fancied. The string are beginning to come to form a little bit. I just think he's well handicapped here. You've got a lot of these that are kind of pushing 140, Snow Leopardess, Ramses Tete, both at the top of the market. Yeah, they might be holding their form well, but on that ground, giving best part of a stone to Kustar Sivilla, who ran in a race last time where the 2 Amigos ran a very similar kind of race and he came out and won the Welsh National. I think Kustar Sivilla he tends to improve for his first run anyway. I think he's a great each way price, a decent each way bet around 7-8 to 1. I think he's going to be hard to knock out the frame.
Yeah, I quite like St Xavier for Richard Hobson. Lily Pinchin on board claiming £3. I think he was very good at Haydock the last time. Again, probably just one of those races where 17-2 each way is a good bet. I think he could be a chance here in that race. We'll move into the 2 mile handicap. I've got a really strong fancy here in the form of Paul Nicholls' Iseo. Now, off 131, very impressive this time last year in a juvenile hurdle. He likes soft ground. I think he could be a big chance. Hasn't run since then, actually. He's run twice. He ran in February and Cheltenham. Didn't really like it. It was good to soft ground. Didn't really like it. I think the ground will come right for him. He's 5 to 1 roughly off 131. I think it's a big chance here.
He does. It's not a race that I'm overly bothered about and looked into too deeply. Again, I think Venetia's is interesting in that as well. I think that's got a good chance. I can already see what I'm going to do on Saturday and stick with Venetia Williams. But yeah, I wouldn't put anyone off anything really in that kind of 2 mile handicap hurdle race. But you will be definitely looking at kind of soft ground specialists. It's going to be hard work.
Yeah. And we'll move. We've got a couple of interesting entries I want to get your thoughts on. Bo Zenith is entered in the first race at Sandown for the Moors, again touted for the Triumph Hurdle. Love Envoy, last year's Mayor's Novice winner, is entered as well in the Mayor's Hurdle at 4 to 9. Some decent entries as well. Sandown could be a big day actually towards the festival.
It'd be pretty informative, and you'd imagine it'd be contrasting ground come spring. Bo Zenith has got a very high reputation. He's been pretty prominent in the Triumph market. He's been priced up as the Moors' #1 string for some time. Jupiter the Gate may have changed that now, but yeah, you'd have to think there is kind of French flat form that I think is quite high class, and it's been kind of proven across the pond. So yeah, he's definitely of interest going forward. But again, these horses get clipped in for no reason. You haven't seen them, so I mean, you're just kind of anticipating, and then anticipation builds, and they just get clipped and clipped and clipped. It's a generally positive sign, because they think that the vast majority of people think that he's probably, on the percentage call, going to be pretty decent. So yeah, you'd expect him to probably go out and win that, and Love Envoy should win as well. And she's definitely not one to be forgotten about for the
She
Mares
could be
Hurdle
a big
either.
player in a Mares Hurdle as well, actually.
It's definitely not a problem. So that's why I think that division, the Mares Hurdle, looks pretty strong.
Yeah, we'll move into Sunday. We've got the Laurels of Naas, the Grade 1. We've got the declarations here. Grangeclare West is 5-4 favourite. I know the way you're thinking. Irish Point 5-1. Champ Kiley, Don Rising at 7s, and you've got the kind of 16-1 bar. No Gaelic Warrior, which I'm quite surprised by. I don't know what they're going to do with him. He's been cut to 5s for the Ballymore, which they must have a plan in place somehow for him. Grangeclare West, though, quite surprising they're going here.
No, I think it's a logical step. I mean, a lot of people think that he's a 3-miler, but I thought in his main success that he did show a lot of gears. I don't think he's slow. He does have a high reputation. I think he's pricing his reputation. To be honest, Gaelic Warrior's pretty prominent in the betting, so it's a bit surprising that he's missed out. So yeah, I mean, there's obviously a bit of confidence behind Grangeclare West. His maiden form in behind has taken a few knocks, so I mean, there's definitely a case to take him on with something.
Gaelic Warriors will entered next Thursday in the Munster Hurdle. It's maybe interesting. That could be potentially where he's going. What do you think? Do you fancy? Do you think Grangeclare West will win?
The one I always liked for this was Irish Point.
I know the way you're thinking, is the one I've come down on.
I quite like Irish Point. I think he almost pinched that race, the Royal Bond, beaten by Marine Nationale, who a lot of people now think is a complete weapon, and definitely now the main rival to Facile Vega. So if that form does get boosted, I think Irish Point can probably go a bit further. I think you just get a bit kind of mugged, get done by a speedier horse all that trip. So that gives a bit of hope that he can get 2.5 miles. And I think Gordon Elliott really targets this race really, really well.
Yeah.
I mean, 3-car brag, we wouldn't rule out. There's a lot of decent kind of each way options in this. Some of them will shape as Bartlett contenders, some of them will be Ballymore contenders, but in the favourites do have an unbelievable record in the race as well. But Gordon Elliott's dominated it recently, and I think there's a decent amount of faith placed in Irish Point. I think he's probably my play right now.
Yeah, I would put him there. I know the way you're thinking for Gavin Cromwell. I think this is obviously the plan. He only just beat Imagine, who I think there's a big difference in the price. Imagine sitting about 25-1 each way. I would put him, roll against him, maybe being a contender at a place. I know the way you're thinking is the one. I kind of think this is the one. Grangeclare West could just win and shorten up for the Ballymore, couldn't he? If he's as good as we think he is.
He could. He's a lofty reputation, of course, but he has had his kind of issues in the background. He did look good in the main form in behind, taking a bit of knock. He has price and reputation for me. The Gavin Cromwell horse is definitely respected. The form of the yard right now concerns me. It's like one winner for like months now. It's not a good kind of sign. Just like Irish Point, he's got the highest RPR coming into this. Genuine Grade 1 form, and behind a horse that's now second favourite for the Supreme, that they think that won it despite it being run a little bit unsuitably for him. Him around 5s, I think's the bet of the race for me. But it's going to be a very informative race either way. There'll be a lot of kind of interesting handicappers potentially down the line as well, and in midfield and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, it's going to be a good race.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. We'll move into our ante-post selections. We're ante-post selections. Obviously, we'll take a wee look through what we've got just now. The one, if you were to give a captain of your ship just now, who would it be? Mine would probably be Lossiemouth.
Probably 3-car brag in a Bartlett, maybe, if he shapes up well on Sunday. It's just it's pretty stagnant, isn't it? There's not a lot kind of going on. Even if you're picking the outsiders, I wouldn't totally dismiss them at the moment either. So we'll see what happens, but it's not kind of shaped into life yet.
Yeah. We've got one each this week. Who is your anti-post selection for this week's show?
It's in the males novices hurdle. It's Magical Zoe at 11-1.
Okay.
This horse ran it down Royal. It hasn't been seen since, but the 3rd, the 5th, and 6th have all come out and won subsequently. 3rd, the Model Kingdom won a race. The 5th of Willie Mullins has won a listed race that absolutely hammered Harmonia Maker, Fairy House. So that's quite impressive form. And Liberty Dance has won twice since, one of them listed company. She's now the same price as Magical Zoe, which I don't quite understand, because Magical Zoe, watching that race, it came really late, fast, quick, and was definitely on top at the line. And there's a lot more to come as well. Henry de Bromhead said straight away, Mares Novices hurdle, that's definitely the undoubted target, unquestionably. She's gonna have a soft tell me something girl like prep, and her running style is exactly like hers. Come from the back, turn a foot, put races to bed. And I think that's exactly what they're going to try and do in March with this horse. I think they know what they've got. She's unbeaten 3 out of 3. Her form's working out very, very strongly indeed. That grade 3 at Down Royal looked strong at the time. It's working out really well. 3 of them in RPRs now north of 140. That's usually enough to win a Mares Novice hurdle if you translate that to overall ratings. Her at 11-1, I think she's got a great chance. Obviously, the emotional story about it connected. I mean, Henry de Bromhead will be absolutely determined to get this horse cherry ripe on the day. I think she's probably the best in the yards. There's a couple that I was waiting on in behind that haven't quite fired, so I think that just places even more emphasis on him, which is pressure, but there's a lot of confidence behind her. Form's working out well. She might have a soft run at Leopardstown or something, a graded race just to tear over for it in the Dublin Racing Festival. And whatever she does between now, even if she does come out between now and Cheltenham, you know Cheltenham's going to be the be all and end all. I mean, you know she's guaranteed to improve a ton for that run. So, and she'll be short on the day because you know the emotional bandwagon will definitely come for her. Astro Diamond is ahead of her on the market. I mean, she's shaping up well in grade ones, running in behind, you know, not really doing much. Is she a superstar? With the way she's campaigned suggests no. Lucia is at an unsatisfactory scope. A couple of Nicky Andersons aren't running particularly well over the Christmas and New Year period. You'd be a bit concerned about an unsatisfactory scope for a long-term target like that. And if anyone's aware of her personal story, she almost kind of, you know, died before her racing career kind of took off really. So we've seen Marie's Rock, Epiton, you know, if they're not ready for this, they'll be minded. This will not be the be and end all for Lucia. For Magical Zoe though, you feel it might well be. Gordon Elliott horses, the Mares Novices that I've seen from his yard look 2.5 miles and needing soft ground, and they're all collaterally form or form wise completely held by Magical Zoe on one run, and on one run that she looked destined to improve from. There's plenty of scope there. Yeah, and I think there could be a really emotional success in the Mares Novices hurdle on Thursday. I think 11-1 is a decent price.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree with that. It could be a good selection. I am going to go for a horse in the Ryanair. Now, you went through the Ryanair completely last week. You probably looked at every single horse in the market. Obviously, this week the entries came out for it, and I found one very, very interesting. And it is a home horse. It's the sponsor's horse. He's only entered 2. He's entered Conflated, and he's entered this guy. Conflated seems to be going to the Gold Cup, but I think Fury Road could be going here, and I think 20-1 could be a big price. The two sides of looking at this coin is, if Alaho's in the race, he could be maybe best of the rest and just kind of go in the rear. He ran a stormer in the Sables Chase when you actually look back at it. He just stayed at the back, just made his mark. Conflated did do him for toe. I agree with that, but I do think Conflated will go to the Gold Cup. Michael O'Leary will want to win his money back somehow, and I think the fact he's only entered 2 of them, and if he's putting Conflated maybe up towards a Gold Cup, I think this guy goes here. If Alaho doesn't run, he'll be half the price. He'll be half the price once the market sorts itself out, because he's probably a player to win the race. So the case you can make with that is if Allaho doesn't run, do a lot of horses get rerouted. I've looked through the market, and I know you kind of brought this up last week. Shishkin's only entered in the Ryanair chase. There's no entry for Shishkin in the champion chase, which I was surprised by. Fakir Duderie, it all depends on Allaho. Galopin de Champ, Conflated, Envoy Allen, Statler probably will go elsewhere. I just think 20-1 is massive for a horse who I don't see him going to a Gold Cup if the other horse goes here. Brave Saskia, you've got at 25, he's just behind him in the bet. And 25's here, I've got in the market. 20-1 Fury Road. You know, I think the O'Learys will target him for this. And you might see him in the Irish Gold Cup. And then you just see, I think he could go at the Ryanair regardless. I think he's definitely a decent bit of value at 20s. Probably each way if Allaho goes, but if Allaho doesn't go, and he'll automatically shot him.
Yeah, I can see the angle. He does have a touch of class. So it's the same rating as Brave Siaska, which is interesting given that he does have graded form in the book, but I do feel that he's a 3-miler. I think he'd be too slow for a Ryanair.
The other thing is, he's ran 3 times at Cheltenham over 3 miles, and he's not really ran great. Like it was good in the battle. Obviously, he was probably unlucky not to win it. Went to the stairs, pulled up, and then obviously last year he was unlucky entry over 3 miles actually in the novices chase. I completely forgot he pulled out of the. I thought that was the Brown Advisory he ran in, but he's always potentially going to be a potential 3 mile. He actually ran pretty well in that Down Royal race. Now I know Delvino, you can argue he only beat Delvino by a short head, but he was showing a bit of.
He needed every yard of the trip.
I know, but you can argue that he needed the run, and he'll probably, if you were maybe to put him in a 2.5, maybe towards March, he would come on for that. I just think there's something about. I just think the way the entries have worked out, I think he's probably the most likely Gigginstown horse to go here, and I always think they'll like to win their money back.
They will, yeah. You see, maybe try and bowl out, and if he stays prominent as his pitching, then he'll definitely stay up the hill. And I've liked him a long time. The hurdles that put him up the stairs hurdle where he made quite a few kind of mistakes, and it didn't quite go right for him. But the cheek pieces have helped. See, though he won a 3-mile novice chase, and he looked like an absolute. He just shapes like a stair to me, and the Savills chase as well is the same. 2.5 looks. That trip looks short for me, even though it's steadily run. But I mean, he was staying on kind of better than most. So I just do think that he's a bit of a stayer. Going down trip, there's no harm in trying it. See what happens. And as you said, the race cuts up. People different kind of alternate angles to get a price, and that's what we're looking for. So he does have back class. He does have the class to get involved. I just do worry about the trip for him.
It's a shot in the dark, but hopefully leads to something productive. Magical Zoe for you, and I've got Fury Road. And we're going to wrap up the show there. Calum, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks again.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. And we'll be back next week with the next show of our Road to Cheltenham. We'll see you soon. Cheers.